Track Record with your hosts Mike Shea and Robert Yetter. Brought to you by Eventide Entertainment.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Track Record. I am your host, Mike Shea.
And I am Robert Yetter.
And this week we are discussing best or worst debut albums from a particular band. Whether it's the best or the worst will depend on the person, I do believe. Last week we covered some albums about best lyricism. Rob assigned me I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning by Bright Eyes. And I gave him Nostradamus by Judas Priest. And for the first time, it was a show that was not full of diarrhea.
Not a diarrhea show.
Not a diarrhea show. We'll see how this one goes. Yeah, you never know what could happen. We could have two in a row.
Will the diarrhea make its triumphant return?
Will there be feces? Tune in for more. So for this week, like I said, we assigned debut albums from bands. And I assigned Rob the debut album from a band that I know he likes, but I knew he hadn't delved into like their older catalog yet, so I wanted him to kind of hear it and compare it to what he knew about now.
So yeah, I gave you De-Loused in the Comatorium by the Mars Volta. And Mars Volta is, there's a thing about them, if there is actually a "the" in their name or not. And I don't think there was ever a determination about that, but
well, I'm just going off of, what's on Wikipedia, and there's a "the," so
yeah.
Just gonna
the Mars Volta, one of my favorite bands of all time. And I think that their debut album was a very strong debut. Obviously, if you've read into the Mars Volta at all, they're all musicians. They were in a previous band called At the Drive-In, which they're actually in again. I believe they started that back up last year or so. But yeah, it's really good stuff. I think it's an example of what to do when you're making a debut album. So what were your thoughts, man?
All right, so I'm going to talk today about the Mars Volta's debut album, De-Loused in the Comatorium. So, as I mentioned last week when Rob assigned me the album, Mars Volta, the Mars Volta. Kind of like the Ohio State University. The Mars Volta. I was surprised I didn't know this. They're not a thing anymore.
That is correct.
I did not know that 2012 they called it quits.
Wow, was it that long ago?
Yeah, that was the last time they were together. In 2014, one of the founding members, Isaiah Owens, died of a heart attack, it looks like.
Wow.
A lot of going through the band's history, a lot of bad stuff.
A lot of death.
A lot of just kind of, they really did kind of have a rough go of things. But this was
they all did heroin for a long time.
Who among us has not? I'm kidding, Mom.
What's the joke, guys?
It's a joke. It's a joke. Only on days ending in Y. This was a band that, working in radio, I had always kind of heard in the background and heard the name floating around, but had never taken the time to actually delve into. So this was, for me, it was kind of an experience because I got to hear their debut album and it was fresh for me, like it was for everyone else who heard it when it came out. I'm just hearing it, 16 years later. Not 16, 14 years later.
Wow.
So
all this makes me feel old, man.
Right? 2003, June 24th, 2003, which was actually the month that I moved to South Carolina. We finished.
Bless your heart.
I know. Finished middle school. We moved down to South Carolina from northeastern Ohio that month. So a couple weeks later, this album came out.
There you go. You're old.
Yeah, I'm old, man. It was released on Universal Records, one of the least hated major record labels out there. Universal's okay. So the album was 10 tracks. This was in the time of year. It was 2003. So that's when a lot of albums were doing like the whole, this album was released in Japan with a bonus track. This one was released in Australia with 4 bonus tracks. This one was released in Timbuktu with 5 extra seconds of sustained guitar wah. Like crap like that started being a thing. I hate that shit. I hate it when they do that. Yeah, no, this track is only for those in Japan. Oh, is the track in Japanese? No, but you can only get it if you live in Japan. Because, whatever.
Cut to later when the internet exists and you can pirate anything.
No shit. It's all everywhere, man.
Ooh, right? I get the Japanese version.
So does everybody else.
That's right.
But yeah, so the first thing I noticed, by the way, the drink of choice tonight, Mikey is finally off the painkillers. So I am celebrating. I mixed orange soda, grenadine, and bourbon in a water bottle, shook it up, and it kind of tastes like Mountain Dew gamer fuel from back in the Halo 3 days. So I'm kind of digging it.
Get it on, buddy.
Get it on, buddy. So the first thing I thought upon listening to De-Loused at the Comatorium was, man, the Mars Volta is really into Star Trek, because I've never heard so much phaser used in my life. Holy cow. Like, the only place I've ever heard more phaser effect used on tones, again, is in Star Trek for phaser sound effects.
Like really quick frequency phaser, too.
Yeah, lots of phaser used on every track, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Phaser isn't my favorite guitar effect. It's actually pretty low on my list, but used in the right ways, I think it can be good. Using it on the entirety of every song of an entire album, by the end of it, I was kind of like, okay, you found the phaser knob on the amp. Good for you. I got a little tired of that pretty quick. I loved the album title, the song titles. I really did. I liked that, like one of the opening intro track. I don't speak French, but it's in French. It's French for sound and light, which I actually thought was really fitting, because listening to it, I love weird techno instrumental intro tracks. I don't know what it is. I just dig them. Maybe that's why I dig Bogeyman's Tears album so much. I don't know, but
that was a plug, everyone.
That was a plug. Hint, hint, wink, wink. You're not on Skype with us. You can't see me winking. But no, like I dig the techno instrumental opening tracks. I'm a sucker for them. I don't know what it is. But there was inertiatic ESP, which I had to Google, stands for ectopic shapeshifting penance propulsion. The titles of these songs are just ridiculous and sciency, and I loved it. I don't know what it is, but I loved it. There's just something about that. There's one track called, speaking of ESP, Cicatrice, ESP, which I think is, what did I look up? Let me look at my notes here. It's Spanish for scar. So scar, ectopic shapeshifting penance propulsion. Was like 12 and a half minutes long. It was pretty tight. It was a pretty good song. Everything on here, like once I was able to, and I apologize for the sound of my dog in the background. It's raining and I couldn't put her outside. Every song on here, when I would finish listening to it, my immediate reaction would be, I don't know what I just listened to, but I want to keep going. It was like in honor of this, when we're recording this is the opening weekend of Blade Runner 2049. This reminds me of the first time I saw Blade Runner.
Yeah, it's like a trip, man.
It really is. And I actually went back and rewatched Blade Runner a couple, last week. And while I was listening to the album, like on the way to work, I'm thinking to myself, like, this sounds like an album, honest to God, that was written by people who were huge fans of Blade Runner, and Star Trek, because Phaser. So I'm not going to let that go. I thought of that joke like yesterday, and I'm like, oh, that's going in the show.
Oh, good.
But it was, by the time I got done listening to it, the whole album, I immediately went back and listened to it again, because upon first listening to it, my thoughts were, I don't feel satisfied. I feel like I need more. So I kind of had to go listen to it again. Like I was half tempted to go just start listening to the next 2 or 3 albums, because it left.
You should have.
I should have, and I probably will going forward, honestly, because it left me curious.
It only gets more wild. Well, but then it starts out really wild, and then like their last couple albums were toned down a bit.
I did recognize one of the songs on here called "Televators," because
Is this about to be another plug?
I'm gonna probe the shit out of you, because somebody who shall remain nameless, Robert Yetter, aka Citizen 7, did a cover of this on his last EP.
That's right.
And it was kind of weird hearing. I was like, why does this sound familiar? Oh, that's right.
Gotcha.
No, I dug it. I really did. I wasn't sure what I was going to think. Going from that intro track into Inertiatic, and just going forward, it was a trip. Okay.
Okay.
Like, I've never done hallucinogenics.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure this qualifies.
Sure.
As a hallucinogenic version of an album. It was trippy, and it was science fiction-y, and it was at the end of the day, it was creative.
Yeah.
And when you look at when the album came out, this came out in June of 2003. Like, people were still fresh off of Linkin Park's Meteora.
Yeah, music didn't sound like this.
No, it was 2003 was the golden age of the emo kid. I mean,
yeah.
This is when My Chemical Romance was like huge.
Gotta love them.
Yeah, do I have to?
We'll do an emo episode eventually.
Oh God, I'm gonna relive some things. I'm gonna relive some things. If you guys haven't seen the picture of me with the red hair yet, it's oh man, it's something special.
It's great.
But yeah, looking at when this album was ballsy. Not in terms of like lyrical content or anything like that, and just in the overall style of the album. Like we just said, like this is not what rock sounded like in 2003.
Oh yeah.
To do something like this for your debut album took a lot of balls. So I don't have a whole lot of things to say about it negatively, other than just too much phaser.
Yeah.
But again, that's more of a personal tasting, and just again, not my favorite guitar effect. It's not my favorite audio effect, phaser.
It seems like he put it a lot on the vocals too.
Yeah, it was just it was almost like instead of running the guitar through a phaser, like through a phaser effect in his amp, it seems like they recorded the music and then put it's a layer of phaser over top of the whole song, like in post.
Could be. This album notorious for, the band in general, the two main guys, normally take care of a lot of the production end of it. And so, they were very, very, they spent many hours in the studio just messing with stuff, you know, in post pretty much. And so a lot of that experimental stuff comes from that. Plus, you know, they were probably, you know, wigging out.
Well, because I'm seeing on here their guitarist Omar, he's listed as a producer. Now, one other thing, and I can't believe I forgot this, but one thing about the album that blew my mind was that it was produced by Rick Rubin.
Was it really? I didn't know that. It was
produced by Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin, like, this dude has produced for AC/DC, Johnny Cash,
yeah,
the Avett Brothers, ZZ Top, and then like he's also produced for like Typo Negative, Coheed, Kanye, 9 Inch Nails. Like Rick Rubin is,
yeah, like, it sounds like Universal did him a nice solid there, huh?
He's worked with Universal, Warner Brothers, Def Jam, Columbia. I mean, Rick Rubin is like the Steven Spielberg of producers, and so. Yeah. To get someone like Rick Rubin to produce your debut album, to produce something this avant-garde during the peak of the emo era of rock music, speaks a lot.
Everything's
to it.
Dark and cold.
Yeah, you know. Me. I got my older brother to buy me some cigarettes.
Still 2 for $1. What's up?
Still 2 for $1. I carry a condom in my wallet.
Did you notice too? There were 2 primary musicians on this record that you may have recognized.
I recognized Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers. Did some bass.
Yeah, he did. He did bass on all the songs but one.
I think Televators was the only one he didn't do it on.
Yeah.
And then who else am I not noticing?
It was the other Red Hot Chili Peppers guy. I think the guitarist. I don't remember his name.
Let me look at it here.
Is it Jimmy something? I don't know.
I'm not the biggest Chili Peppers fan, so I really can't say for sure.
Yeah, me either.
But
okay, that's Chili Peppers in a nutshell.
I mean, Flea is like one of the best bass players out there. I mean, there's no getting around that. So
true statement.
All in all, I'm going pretty high on this one. I'm not quite to a 4.
Okay,
but I will give it a 3.5.
Whoa, that's beautiful.
It's so close.
That's a shiny purple star right there.
It's all the phaser.
Okay.
And again, that's more of just a personal taste thing, kind of like, you know, whether or not you like ketchup or vinegar on your French fries or both. I'm just not a fan of the phaser effect, and it was all over this album, and after a while it kind of wore on me a bit. So I can't get it quite to 4, but if that's the biggest problem I have with it, I'm content with a 3.5.
Understood.
I want you to talk about why you love the album, Robert.
Well, it's hard to explain my love for, because when I listened to this album, it was kind of I was at a certain place in my life. I had just started college. It was 2010 when I started getting into Mars Volta, and it was actually the band that brought myself and my best friend Mitchell together.
Mitchell!
Shout out Cloud Jolt. Shout out
Mitchell.
And so we kind of bonded over that, you know, that thing that we had together, right? And so I hold it in high regard because of that. It brought us together. But it's also, like you said, for its time, nobody else was doing something like that. And they just crossed so many boundaries. And I think that it is amazing lyrically. He has kind of an abstract lyrical style, which I can relate to because a lot of my poetry is abstract style, you know, based typically based on sound or, just an image, not necessarily like coherent lines, I don't know. I just love it. And I love, the rest of their albums too. My favorite is an album called Francis the Mute. And Mitchell will tell you this too, that we used to listen to that album religiously. It's so amazing. They take so many influences, especially jazz, and they expound on it so much. They do so much, and it's really great to listen to. And I'm glad they exist, and I'm sad that they no longer exist in as a working band.
Yeah, man.
But I'm glad you liked it, man.
I am too, and I was apprehensive as hell. I wasn't sure because again, it was just one that like I had gone this long knowing they were out there at one point in the music sphere and having never. And plus, when you jump into someone's debut album, I mean, let's be honest, 9 out of 10 debut albums suck.
Yeah, that's true.
It's maybe not 9 out of 10, but 7 out of 10 debut albums are pretty bad. It's the ones that, launch a career that you can look back on and go, that was a solid album. What the band does with that career going forward is another story. I'm looking at you, Linkin Park, rest in peace, Chester Bennington. But, it is what it is. But this one, it caught me, and I wanna listen to it a couple more times. I want to find these special Japanese, UK, and Australian bonus tracks and see what they're like, and see what else out of their catalog I can get my hands on, and give the rest of it a listen.
Sounds good.
Yeah, man.
I think you'll go on a nice little journey.
I'm gonna go on a nice little trip.
Trip it on.
Trippy. But yeah, so yeah, man, I dig it. I dig it a lot. So the Mars Volta, De-Loused in the Comatorium, 3.5 out of 4 stars.
Beautiful.
All right, well, we're gonna take a quick break, and then when we pop back in, Robert is gonna give his feelings on the band's debut album that I assigned him last week, and we'll see what he has to say.
There's nothing quite as satisfying as a good conversation with intelligent company. Join comedian Don Smith every week as he sits down and talks with comedians, actors, filmmakers, writers, and everyday schmoes. It's The Life with Don Smith, Wednesdays at noon on 106.9 FM, and now available on the Eventide Entertainment podcast feed every Friday on Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes.
Nerd Versus, Mondays at 9 a.m. on the Eventide Entertainment podcast feed.
Are you into making music, videos, or podcasts? Are you a local comedic talent in need of some much-needed publicity? Are you a behind-the-scenes professional interested in audio-video production, graphic design, and public relations? Eventide Entertainment is actively seeking talents, clients, and professionals to help our business grow into something truly special. And we want you to be one of those. For more information, go to facebook.com/Eventide Entertainment or send us an email at eventideent@gmail.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the esteemed show where we give you diarrhea and non-diarrhea takes on many albums that we hope that you enjoy the sound of our voices. And shout out to Mike for the beautiful promotions. I'm sure that it's still his voice on all of them. What's up, Mike? Whoa, you're there and you're here at the same time.
We gotta get somebody else to record some fucking promos so it's not just me all the time.
Yeah, so
hey guys, what's going on? We'll be right back. Hey guys, this is Mike.
It's awesome. I love it. I don't think we should ever change it. It should just be you for everything.
Just be me for everything.
So yeah, that was I apologize for that weird intro back into the show here. But
at this point, do you expect anything different from us? I mean, really.
It's diarrhea, not diarrhea, whatever. It's
Is it poop or not poop?
I don't fucking know. All right.
Apologies to all of our Boston friends who we may or may not have offended. Who the fuck are these two guys making fun of the way we talk?
Man.
These two
Don't
fucking
make me
guys.
get my fucking cousin. All right. Well, I actually in recording my episode of Nerd Versus today, I actually made like a politically charged statement, and it felt weird. It wasn't like anything crazy, like I was picking a side or anything like that, like, fuck Trump or anything like that. It wasn't like that. But it was just a point that I made that I noticed in society that people don't do it. And so go listen to the episode. Came out on Monday because we're in the future now, but not really right now. But you know what I'm saying?
I'm with you. I think we've lost half the listeners, but I'm with you.
All right. It just felt weird to say something like that on a platform such as that could reach people.
That's the beauty of podcasting, man. Sometimes you're talking about a subject and something just kind of hits you, and it's related in a way, but it'll send you off a bit. It's happened to me on more than one occasion on my show.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where you just kind of let it happen.
Yeah.
And you go back and listen to it later on, and you realize, wow, it's amazing what kind of thoughts can be provoked from my twisted mind.
And twisted it is. And dark and emotional. All right. Mike, what did you give me to listen to?
So going in this week, I was trying to think of something, a good debut album to give Robert to listen to. He and I differ very much on a lot of the music we listen to. But every once in a while, we find an artist that we both unabashedly love. And one of those is a band called Epica. Now, Epica is a band that I know Robert has recently gotten into in the last year or so. And so I decided I wanted to take him on a little bit of a journey into the past to check out the first album in the catalog of the band that is Epica, so he could not only experience it, but also compare that first album to what he knows of them now and kind of get his thoughts on it.
Yep. So you gave me the Phantom Agony by Epica, which came out in 2003, oddly enough, the same year that De-Loused came out. So
that was not planned.
Fancy us. And this was the first release of Mark Jansen's new project after the band After Forever, which was another symphonic metal band, much similar to Epica. I don't know what it was that, why he started this new band or whatever. I don't know the details of that, but this is immediately after leaving that band. Okay, it's definitely a softer album compared to some of their more recent stuff. They seem to kind of switch back and forth. This album to me is comparable to Requiem for the Indifferent. It's got the more ballady songs,
a little more subdued.
And then compared to what's that?
So it's a little more subdued.
Yeah. Right? It's, compared to like a recent one, The Holographic Principle, which is much more metally, right? They gave a lot of power to the drum and to the guitars, bringing them up a level in the mix. This album focuses more on Simone's voice, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But really, I love Epica in both styles. I love them when they're more ballady and more vocally focused, and I love them when they're really metal or they're more symphonically focused. And Simone, I'm going to say it right now, has the best voice out of any other symphonic metal band, or pretty much any singer ever, in my opinion. I think she's got the best voice. I'm talking about Serenia, Within Temptation, Delane, even After Forever, who that chick is also in Nightwish now, Floor Jansen.
Oh, that is her other band. That's right. I forgot about that.
Right. She actually is kind of the closest to Simone as far as her sound goes. But I think Simone Simons has the best voice ever.
Is it Simons or Simmons?
Simons.
Okay. I'm not German,
I believe.
I don't know.
Simon. No double M.
Anyway.
But anywho. So some negatives about the album. Mark Jansen's scream vocals are so much less pronounced and not as well developed as they are now. And one thing not particularly negative that I will say struck me about Simone's singing on this album is that she stuck to the more operatic style. And this is something that not everyone would notice, I think, just coming into this band. But she has two distinct singing styles that she utilizes. One is the operatic, which has the higher pitches and like a more full-mouthed sound. And she has the more quote-unquote normal singing voice, which is, lower pitches, more fluid between pitch changes, the more poppy style, right? So in comparing the old with the new, it definitely seems like it took time for the vocalists in this band to become comfortable with their styles. Mark's voice has vastly improved, and Simone's voice was never bad in the slightest, but she's stuck in her comfort zone mostly for this album. I was reading some other reviews of the album. Some of them were less than favorable. One of those, and this first part that I agree with, is that her full potential was not realized. And then the review went on to proclaim that the album was a pretentious piece of garbage that couldn't escape the shadow of After Forever. So, very opinionated, that one. And also, kind of another semi-negative for me was that the production quality is decent. It's pretty standard for 2003, barring the Mars Volta probably. But it doesn't compare to the more fleshed out and punctuated sound of their newer albums. Right? The chugs are nowhere to be heard on this record. They're so quiet. And I call albums like this a pop mix. And there's tons of examples.
That's a good word for it. I like that.
Yeah, there's tons of examples of rock or metal albums that are like this. Here's looking at you, Evanescence.
Ha! Burn.
Or, any pop singer that has kind of a rock. They got that, that rock track that they have to make something out of. And so it's where the instrumentation mix is tucked behind the vocal mix.
Looking at you, Avril Lavigne.
Yeah. There you go. There's one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when you compare this album, The Phantom Agony, to one of their newer ones, like The Holographic Principle, you get what I mean. It's the Holographic Principle is a fully fleshed out sound, great mix. The vocals are in with the rest of the instrumentation, and it's beautiful. This one has the pop mix, and that's a negative for this. So moving to some positives, there was, in my opinion, great ratios between the group operatic vocals, the singing, and the scream vocals. Albums like The Quantum Enigma feature the group operatic vocals more often, and I like when Simone's voice is featured better. The Quantum Enigma is actually my least favorite Epica album, I think. It's It's
Is that the one with Essence of Silence on it?
I don't know.
The one that came out a couple years ago?
Yeah, it was the one before the Holographic Principle.
I liked it. I like Holographic Principle considerably better, as well as some of the other ones. It wasn't my favorite. I think a lot of people kind of felt that way.
Yeah, it just didn't seem like it had, like some passion put into it. I don't know. It just fell flat with me. And another positive, excuse me, for this one is that the songs are mostly simple, but they're catchy, right? Simone's vocals in particular are pleasingly melodic, which contrasts from the more simplistic instrumentation and the pop mix, as I mentioned earlier. And really, there's no bad songs. And in fact, I've never actually really heard a bad Epica song. There's ones I listen to less, but none of them are immediately skippable. And that's no different with this album. And
I kind of felt like a lot of the stuff on their 2012 Requiem for the Indifferent were pretty forgettable.
No, see that? I have to disagree with you there.
That's a conversation for another time.
Yes. That album is where I think, I fell in love with her voice because it features so prominently. It's such a slow and quiet album, that one.
Yeah.
Very ballady. It grows on you. Trust me.
There's a funny story about that album, but we'll talk about that off air.
Okay. But the greatest positive for me for this record is that, and this ties back to the theme of the episode, is that this is a debut album and it's this well done. Just like the Mars Volta with De-Loused, it's well done. Sure, it may be safe, but it's really solid first piece of work. And you can tell the band clearly already knows what Epica is and what their style is. And right there is the biggest thing, how comfortably this sits in with the rest of their work.
I saw them January of 2016.
I should have saw them recently. They were near here last month.
They were near here too with Lacuna Coil, and that is a show that I would have given one of my nuts to go see.
They actually played the day before Thy Art Is Murder was playing at the same venue. I was like, oh man,
wow. Well, and one of the things, to go off your point, with how well this fits with their more recent stuff, when I saw them play, they still played Sensorium, Cry for the Moon, and the Phantom Agony live. They still played the stuff live. Not a lot of bands still play their debut album stuff live.
Yeah. See, that right there, it just, concretes my point. It sits comfortably with the rest of their work. Some of my favorites, Cry for the Moon was definitely the Embrace That Smothers Part 4, the parenthetical in there. And the song, the melodies in that song are just amazing. And I really liked the quiet, simple song called Faint. Just Simone's voice and the symphony with some drums later. Those were a couple of my favorites on there, but really everything was solid. So as far as, I'm going to give mine a 3.5 purples.
Oh, they keep going up.
3.5 purples. The elusive 4. Will it ever be found?
I think so. I think there will come a day.
I think we need to switch it up on them. We need to, where's the shit?
We need to shit on some stuff. I think we're going to be shitting on some stuff maybe with this next one. That's a good possibility. First of all, I wanted to talk about the production quality of this because, well, first of all, you can't talk about Epica. Now I know you haven't really gotten into this band yet, and I plan on through this show changing that. There's a band called Camelot.
Yep.
Which actually Epica is named after an album by Camelot.
That is correct. And Simone is also married to one of the gentlemen in Camelot, correct?
The keyboardist, Oliver Palatai, who's a
That's
good looking guy who's about 8 feet tall.
Oh yeah, they're all Vikings over there, man.
Yeah. He and actually she's the reason that the band met him, because he's not an original member.
Okay.
I could go on. I could talk about Camelot for hours, but the thing I'm getting to is the producer of the Phantom Agony is a guy named Sasha Paeth. Sasha Paeth is a producer. If you pick a band or an album that falls under the symphonic metal, power metal category, odds are he produced it.
Yeah.
He has produced every Epica album and every Camelot album to this date. And what I find cool about that is, as you listen to both of their careers progress, you can see how he grew as a producer.
Yeah.
Because the production of the albums matured, as did their songwriting.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool way to see, because it's one thing if they're just switching producers all the time. You can do that, sure. Or if you can formulate a good relationship with the producer you have, he can grow with the rest of the band.
Right.
Did you by any chance look into any of the stuff about the Embrace That Smothers stuff?
No, I know that it was stuff that Mark had written in After Forever.
Yeah, he did parts 1, 2, and 3 on After Forever's debut album, which was called Prison of Desire.
Okay.
And then there's 3 songs on the Phantom Agony that are parts 4, 5, and 6. And then if you go listen to The Divine Conspiracy, which is the album from 2007,
right?
That's got parts 7, 8, and 9 on it.
That's awesome.
That actually has one of my favorite Camelot songs on it, called Chasing the Dragon. It's not my favorite album, but it's a damn good album.
Word.
But yeah, I picked this one because I knew you were really familiar with the newer stuff.
Yeah.
And to see such a hot and cold comparison to where they were, how they started, to where they came now. The parts you brought up about how Simone grew into her own vocal style and developed it, and how she played it safe on this one. But again, this kind of harkens back to what I said about the Mars Volta album. Metal and rock didn't sound like this at the time.
Yeah, that's true.
They even took it one step beyond Camelot, but Camelot and Nightwish are kind of seen as the ones who really created the whole symphonic power metal genre, really. But honestly, I would put Epica over Nightwish more for, I guess, the consistency.
Yeah.
Because Nightwish's sound has changed drastically over the years, but a lot of that's blamed on the fact that they've changed vocalists 3 times.
Epica is less power metal, and I'm not huge into the power metal. You
Right.
know, the rolling bass line, drum line. It's
You're right.
with the that typical power metal. Dun,
Right.
dun, 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 dun. That's power metal in a nutshell.
You mentioned Floor Jansen from After Forever, and what's actually cool is when Epica did their 10th anniversary concert, this thing they did, which you can get as a live album, and it's like fucking 20 tracks.
Yeah,
they do like half their library. There's a point in that where she brings Floor on stage with her, and they like duet a song together.
Oh, lovely!
And it's some gorgeous stuff. But I mean, what you said about Simone being probably the best female vocalist in symphonic metal is, in my opinion, an understatement. I challenge anyone to find a better vocalist. I really do.
It's not even that she's the most skilled or anything like that. It's just her voice is the most pleasing to hear. It's just something, I don't know if it's just the tone of it. It's just a beautiful voice.
She could lull you to sleep. I envy her kid. I envy her little boy because he gets to hear her sing lullabies to him, and then she can go on stage and deliver vocals that will send a shiver down your spine.
Yeah, I was just watching, before we started this, I was just watching a female metal singers expectation versus reality, studio versus live.
I've seen that, yeah.
And like the first one was her, and she just kills it live. Just sounds exactly like the record. It's crazy.
I think the best song she sings live, and it's also my favorite song, is Unleashed.
Oh, I'm so jealous of you.
I've seen them and he hasn't. It's funny.
Yeah.
I was front row and she hit that high, and she hit that high note, and you know the high note I'm talking about in Unleashed during that final chorus, man.
Yeah.
And she flowed into it so seamlessly, because most of that song is her regular traditional vocal style, and then she just perfectly slides into the operatic for that final chorus.
Right.
And I was in a good mood. Let's put it that way.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, every time I talk about Epica, I have to gush, man. Like
a cylindrical good mood.
Look, if you don't like Epica, or you've never listened to Epica, like if you don't like Epica,
that's impossible.
That's impossible. The only way you can say I don't like Epica is if you haven't listened to them. And if you haven't listened to them after you're done listening to this show, go listen to Epica. I can't emphasize that enough.
Favorite Epica record, go.
Design Your Universe.
Correct answer.
Because between Unleashed being on there, because Unleashed is my favorite song, my second favorite song is also on there, and that's Martyr of the Free World.
That is a good answer.
Which she also sang at the show I saw her at, and it was awesome.
Shut up. Shut your fucking mouth. God damn it.
What about you? Same thing?
Yep.
Man, Design Your Universe. If you guys are looking for which album should I listen to first, if I'm going to listen to Epica for the first, go listen to Design Your Universe.
Yes.
You get the also one thing I like about that album is it's got Tony from Sonata Arctica on it. I like Sonata Arctica.
I bought their, I guess it was their recent album. I never listened to. I listened to one song and I was like, meh, because it's got that, you know,
it's different,
that singing style that I don't normally, you know, the Rob Halford style.
Sonata Arctica is different. They're an acquired taste. I saw them with Delane open for Nightwish. It's a good show, but Sonata,
You're
man,
such a bastard.
But you know what, man? None of this would have happened if I hadn't moved up here to the Northeast. You and I are blessed because we live in this part of the country where fucking everybody tours through around here.
And see, I grew up in near Denver, so I saw a plethora of shows back in high school.
But see, you and me, we did our time. We served our sentence down in South Carolina where nobody tours.
Well, we moved away, and then they built that music farm down there.
I got to see
where people go to now.
Yeah, no, I got to see a couple shows there before I left. The last one I saw when I was there was In This Moment headlining.
There you go.
It was a good show. But that music farm is finally kind of not totally, but partially unfucked the local the live music scene for South Carolina. Not totally fixed it, but it's on its way back. Because after they lost Headliners, which was kind of the music venue for a while.
Place is just it's where dreams go to mold and just become poison.
South Carolina does to your hopes and dreams what the sisters did to Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption.
It's like
that's a butt sex joke, everybody.
It's like Gary Busey. I don't even have a good one. It's just Gary Busey.
It's like Gary Busey. It's just good. Yeah, I mean, that's a good enough comparison.
It's where Gary Busey goes to have cold, clammy butt sex with his own inner thoughts.
I'm pretty sure Gary Busey like jerks off looking at himself in the mirror. I
hope so.
All right, so that's Phantom. I don't even know where to go from there. Phantom Agony, 3.5 stars.
Yeah, boy.
De-Loused at the Comatorium, 3.5 stars. Man, we're 2 for 2 on this tied good score thing.
What's the opposite of diarrhea? Oh, I know what it is.
What?
I'm
afraid of what you're about to say.
Sparkles, man. I don't know. No, it's actually ejaculation. Duh.
Oh yeah, orgasms.
Yeah, orgasms.
Orgasms. So lots of orgasms going on instead of wet diuretic shits. We're having lots of orgasms.
Oh.
I'm going to have to flag this show as like explicit content going forward, I think.
You haven't been doing that?
Nope, I'm going to as soon as we get done.
Okay.
I thought I was listening to a good show about music, but all they talk about are pooping and jerking. I don't understand it.
It's a bunch of fucking sphincters and cocks. What the fuck?
It's a great way to have. It's a great thing to have on your Wednesday night. Is probably the raunchiest show on this fucking network.
Now I can't share this on Facebook because my mom might see it.
I'm sharing it on Facebook, and my mom listens to it. She's been warned. So
fair enough.
She's been warned.
Oh well. So what are we going to market instead of the diarrhea, or in addition to the diarrhea blanket? It'll just be like just like a black
spew drag.
Oh no, it'll be a black blanket, and it'll be packaged with a black light.
Or we could give everybody like a blue dress.
All right, design your universe.
Zip. Make your own Jackson Pollock painting.
There's a universe in your penis, guys. That's what I'm trying to say. Create it.
Oh, damn.
Let it loose.
This was meant to be a family show. No, it fucking wasn't. Who am I talking to?
Oh man. Anywho, so like we What is our category for what we're gonna do next week?
So this took some thinking. You know, we've got a list to go through, and I picked this week's theme.
Right.
So I left it up to Robert. Robert, what was it you picked?
I picked albums that we used to hate, but now like.
Okay. So since you picked it, what album are you giving me?
The album that I am giving you was my first foray into metal.
Oh boy.
An album that Mitchell Uz had showed me.
Oh Lord.
It's called Plagues by The Devil Wears Prada.
Oh boy. Devil Wears Prada.
It's not It's not really that I like just hated it. I didn't understand the style at all because I was not into metal, and this was in 2010. So I've pretty much all I listen to now is metal. So thank you, Mitchell, and thank you, Devil Wears Prada, because that album is fucking amazing. But I didn't like it at first, so that's what you got.
Okay. So mine is going to warp some minds because of how much I currently love this band.
Okay.
But the first time I was ever exposed to this band, I said, what the unholy crippled fuck did I just listen to?
It's going to be Avenged Sevenfold, isn't it?
No. Oh, no. I'm not brave enough for that. I'm not brave enough to give you an Avenged Sevenfold album just yet. No, this isn't. It's and the reason I hated it so much when I first heard it is because I heard this album when I was first getting into rock music. I grew up a slightly sheltered, naive young man, ladies and gentlemen. From a very conservative household. So I was a late bloomer to pretty much fucking everything. So the first time I heard the lead single off this album, I didn't know what to think. Because at that point, the heaviest shit I'd ever gotten into was Green Day.
Yeah. It's going to be Slipknot.
Close. Close. Same generation. This is the second album from Killswitch Engage.
Okay.
The album is The End of Heartache.
Okay.
This, again, anybody listening who knows me is like, this is probably shocked that there was a point in my life where I hated Killswitch Engage. I couldn't get into it. I hadn't developed emotionally or mentally enough yet to appreciate good metal.
Or physically.
Yeah.
Requires stones, man.
Tic Tac penis. Killswitch Engage, their second album, The End of Heartache. It's their second album. It's the first one they did with vocalist Howard Jones, who kind of carried them throughout most of their career up until recently. But you'll read all about that when you're reading up on the album, Robert. So
wonderful.
So, all right. So I'll be doing The Devil Wears Prada Plagues. Robert will be doing The End of Heartache by Killswitch Engage.
That is
for
correct.
next week's albums we used to hate, but now not so much.
That's right.
All right. This is going to be interesting. I have a feeling that next week there's going to be some diarrhea. Knowing you, I think next week there's going to be some diarrhea.
Okay. I am the poop master.
You are the poop man. If anyone's going to have because Devil Wears Prada is another metal band I've never actually gotten super invested in. I've listened to them. I've seen them once. Never really formulated an opinion on. So we'll see what happens between now and next week.
Wonderful.
All right. Robert, I think we got a show.
I think we have a show, sir.
I think we have a show. So, guys, make sure that you tune in next week, same time, same channel. Make sure you check out Robert's show, Nerd Versus, every Monday. Check out my show, Mike Talks Funny, every Tuesday. And all the other great shows we have for you guys here. By the end of the month, the lineup that we have on Eventide is going to be absolutely orgasm worthy. For more information, go listen to the latest episode of Eventide News, up now on the Eventide Entertainment podcast feed. Yeah.
All right. Get naked.
Get naked. I'm going to get some naked. I'm going to get me some naked. I'm going to get some naked. I didn't think about that.
I'm going to give me some of that naked.
All right, cool. I'm going to call it on that one. So once again, guys, thanks for listening to this week's episode of Track Record. I'm Mike Shea.
I'm Robert Yetter.
Tune in again next time. Same Eventide place, same Eventide channel. Bye-bye.